Hello my fellow freedom builders and welcome back to the channel. Now I know I promised you a while back that, or at least I said I hoped I wouldn't be making any more Nikola videos, but I simply had to make this one, and I promise you I'll make it short because something new has come up. As you know, Trevor Milton is out, but now it seems like GM is out, and in that area also the Badger, the Nikola Badger is out, the car that was so famous and that Trevor Milton said would simply destroy the rest of the automotive industry pretty much. Now all of this is out, and why is that? Yeah, well, GM isn't taking stake in Nikola, but may still supply fuel cells and batteries for its trucks. Alright, now what does this mean? Well, if you have been following all my videos, I think I've made 10 or 12 or so about Nikola and the disaster of a train wreck that company is, in my opinion, of course. Then you know that Trevor Milton and Nikola, and in my opinion, is some sort of pumped up scheme. Now, of course, I'm not accusing them of anything wrong. There are enough people doing that already. All I'm saying is that in all of my videos from the very beginning, I said that I could not see how Nikola could be priced at such a ridiculously high level. Let's just have a look at the Nikola stock here. As you know, they went public, or they made this reverse merger here, and it went completely ballistic here and went up to almost $100, meaning that these around $3 billion they were valued at by the initial company taking them public here. They were all of a sudden a sky high, I don't know, $50 billion worth. And of course, that could be a reasonable price if you had revolutionizing, world-changing, environmental-friendly technology, which Nikola claimed they had. They simply were a company that had solved the hydrogen and battery problem for trucks. And I don't need to tell you all of the things they claimed, or Trevor Milton claimed they had. He said they would be building 1,000 hydrogen stations all over the United States. He said they had a battery tech that was somewhere between 5 and 8 times as good as Tesla. I pointed out in one of my videos though that there was a slight problem here, because if you had such good batteries you wouldn't need hydrogen with all the waste of energy in the hydrogen production and transportation and storage and so on. But that is another story. So the stock went completely ballistic, and then all of a sudden it kind of dawned on people that it might not actually be true what Trevor Milton was saying. And it ended out in a very ugly story, and all of a sudden he left the company and so on. But still this deal with GM lived on, because Nikola had this deal with GM where the GM were to let me see the right article here, where GM were to produce this Badger, which is of course one of the nicest looking car, coolest looking cars that was never produced. Not a single of these cars are driving on the road right now. And what I said when that deal came out was that it was a proof that Nikola was nothing but an empty shell. Because what they have been selling up on, what they have been pumping the stocks up here from around 10 to up towards 100, what that was just solely due to was superior tech. Trevor Milton was telling everybody in all sorts of interviews that they had superior battery tech, superior design, superior hydrogen tech, and so on. And all of a sudden they made this deal with GM saying, well, GM is getting an 11% stake in Nikola, and they're paying $2 billion for it, although they were not. They were actually just giving resources, production resources for $2 billion, so that they were just reallocating some internal resources, so it sounded good, but they were not really spending any money on this. Then Nikola were to pay GM $700 million for production facilities, building of that, so they could produce the Badger here. And Nikola would give GM 80% of these environmental credits for producing environmental friendly cars. And Nikola would buy all of the tech from all of the hydrogen and battery tech from GM, pretty much saying, we have spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars and years developing superior tech, and now we need to buy GMs. So that was, to me, kind of a proof that, in my opinion, Nikola is nothing but an assembly company. They are buying third-part companies' products, putting them into some sort of design, and then saying this is a Nikola truck. It is not a Nikola truck. It is a truck with parts from maybe GM, maybe Bosch, maybe all sorts of different companies, and then they are put together by Nikola. That can be good enough. I'm not saying that they could not sell these trucks as Nikola trucks, but they should not be selling and pumping the stock as a superior tech, because they are not. They are not developing any of their own tech. Although they might have some screen display for some inside the truck, some sort of infotainment. I'm not sure what it is for, but some sort of panel inside. They might have designed that by themselves. So at least that is my opinion on this. Now, when we read down through this, we can see that the deal is completely off. The CEO of Nikola, Mark Russell, he's still talking about that GM might supply Nikola with some hydrogen and battery tech for their semi-trucks they are still producing. They're still having this Iveco deal where Iveco should be producing some trucks for them and so on. That's fair enough. What I have heard many people say the last couple of days since this came out, when I wrote with people on Facebook, they said, yeah, well, you're always bashing Nikola, and they asked, why would Iveco and all of these companies go in partnership with them? Well, they are not really. I think Iveco has some sort of ownership part that they have made a fortune on. And then, of course, they earn money on producing the semi-trucks. So I understand why they do that. But the thing people say to me is, why are you bashing on Nikola? Why not? Now that Trevor Milton, he was the lying CEO and founder. Now we have Mark Russell in, this guy here, president, CEO, whatever, of Nikola. And now just give him some time to work with the company and he will build this great company. Yeah, well, he might. But just remember, he was also on the managing side of Nikola when Trevor Milton was there. And when Trevor Milton was saying that they had superior battery tech, 8 times as good as Tesla and so on and so forth, he didn't say anything. He didn't come forward and say, no, that's not really true. We don't have that. No, he just kept silent. And that is one more reason why I simply don't believe them. If we have a CEO right now that kept silent when Trevor Milton was lying like crazy about the products here, then, I cannot trust the management like this. Absolutely not. So this article that, of course, I'll link to below is describing the entire process here with the Hindenburg research report. We can easily see that one. I don't even recall what date it was on, but it was one of these days where the stocks dropped like crazy as well. And they are describing this in a nutshell. The signing of GM as a partner is a positive, but ultimately no ownership equity stake in Nikola, and the billions of R&D potentially now off the table is a major negative blow to the Nikola story. Are you kidding me? Of course it is. And they keep saying that currently Nikola plans to use fuel cells supplied by Bosch and lithium-ion batteries made up by startup Romeo Power for initial versions of its semi-truck. Under the new tentative agreement between the companies, GM will modify its fuel cell for use in big rigs, said Doug Park. This is still just a letter of intent, kind of. So they are not committed to anything, GM here. And pretty much GM got the better deal from this first deal. They got all the money, they got all the credits, they got to sell their tech that they didn't really have any luck selling anyway. So it was them winning on the deal. And for GM to walk away from this deal tells me a lot about where Nikola stands today. So I should not say that Nikola can never start to produce trucks. They just might, and they might sell some of them. But to be honest, I think that on the hydrogen side, because of course there will be hydrogen trucks, I'm not saying there won't, but on the hydrogen side, I think that Nikola is getting more and more competitors each and every month, pretty much. A new company is entering United States and so on with their hydrogen trucks. So they are not superior in any way, but they might be able to sell something. And they might actually be a profitable company at some point. But we just have to adjust the stock price. And yesterday, it seemed like the stock market tried to price in this loss of the GM deal here. A little fun fact here is that this news came out yesterday on the 30th of November. Today, the 1st of December, Trevor Milton's lock-up period on stocks that expires. So today, he can start selling his stock. And how many stocks does he have, you might ask? Well, he has 91 million shares. And that means that before yesterday, or at least a few days ago, his total share value was somewhere between $3.5 and $4 billion. Now it is, quote unquote, only about half, about $1.8 million. And if he chooses to dump his stocks on the market, I bet we will see Nikola stocks down around 10. So I'm not saying, please remember that it won't turn around and in a year or 2 or 3 they will start to climb again, and that Nikola will end up being a real company, if you could call it something like that. But what I'm saying is that it has absolutely no way of being a price tagged at 50 or 60 or even $100 up here. So just remember that. Those of you saying, yeah, well, Nikola will survive. Yeah, yes, they might. They might actually survive. But just remember that the price tag here might be just a tad different. So that is a big part of this. So I just wanted to give you this little news flash here from the Nikola world. Oh, and now I say Nikola world. That was, of course, the name of the big conference, the big show off they needed to have. And I think it was here the 3rd of December. That is in 2 days. But of course, that was cancelled. Is that 2 months ago, 1.5 months ago, due to, the virus in the world. Although every other car company, they actually succeeded in either having online presentations or, like in Tesla's case, they had this outside presentation in a parking lot with all these spectators being in the cars and so on. So everybody else actually succeeded in having their show running. But this show where Nikola should show off the Badger and show off their battery tech and show all of this stuff that Trevor Milton promised, well, it kind of conveniently was cancelled due to the virus. That is nice. All right. So what I think will happen from here on is that Nikola will become a reseller of other companies' parts. I know that one of the big things that Nikola was touted about and being famous for was that they wanted to build 1,000 hydrogen stations across United States. And the entire hydrogen community kind of saw this, Nikola, as the front runner for hydrogen technology in United States, because of course one of the big downsides on the hydrogen tech is the lack of infrastructure. Where Tesla has just normal charging stations and you can charge at home, the hydrogen trucks, they really need some big, expensive hydrogen stations. And Nikola promised to build 1,000 of them. That was their entire business model, because then they could make money on the truck and they could make money on the hydrogen, on selling hydrogen to the truck owners for the entire life cycle of this truck that they have bought. And that seemed like an okay business plan. The only thing is that such a hydrogen station might cost in the area between $30 and $50 million at least. So that means that 1,000 of them would be $30 to $50 billion. And with 30 to 50 billion dollars in cost, well, then they would run out of money pretty quickly, since they only had something around 7, 8, 900 million on the book. Now, then many of my critics, and believe me, there are many of them, they said, yeah, well, they'll just bring in partners for that. Of course, you're silly. They are not going to pay for these hydrogen stations themselves. Oh, well, that might be the case. But just remember, bringing in a business partner that has to come up with $50 billion, they would need some sort of benefit from that. So, for instance, they would need all of the earnings from the hydrogen. And since the entire business case on the Nikola trucks was that they were a big success because they made money on the truck and they made money on all the hydrogen, then all of a sudden they would not make money on the hydrogen, and kind of the basis of the business case falls apart, in my opinion anyway. So, yeah, what I think is that Nikola will probably still be running as a brand many years from now. I'm not sure if the brand will be bought by another company. Like in the GM case, GM has had a hard time really selling themselves as a green, environmental friendly brand. So that was one of the reasons, at least that was the speculations, that GM wanted to lean on the green Nikola brand. So there might come along some larger manufacturer buying up the Nikola brand, or Nikola might keep running as a separate company, but simply just be a reseller of putting a lot of third-party products into one designer shell and then selling them off as Nikola. I do not believe, and this is my opinion, remember that, I do not believe that they will ever be building 1,000, not even 10 hydrogen stations. They simply don't have the money for that. Not saying that there will not be built these stations, but I don't think that it will be Nikola doing it. So the hydrogen community, I think they will need a new front runner. And it might pretty well come. There are a lot of things, exciting things happening in the hydrogen community right now. But as also a lot of my critics are saying, yeah, well, the hydrogen tech is really developing fast. And yes, it is. But so is the battery, the battery tech. And with the pace of the development right now, we see from Tesla and other producers, we can actually, within maybe a decade, my guess is that we will see battery semi-trucks running somewhere around at least 1,000 kilometers on a charge. And that will pretty much, that's pretty much where in the same space as the hydrogen trucks are running today. I know they can drive a bit further, but not many trucks actually need that sort of range. So within quite a short span of years, we will see battery trucks competing on these same ranges. And even though the hydrogen might be better, then who need a truck that can run 4,000 kilometers on a fill up of hydrogen? If you can have a battery truck running somewhere between 800 and 1,200 kilometers on a charge, I think that will cover pretty much 95% of all trucking in the United States. So I think there is plenty of competitors coming up. I think hydrogen will have a place, but I don't think that Nikola will be the one that carries this sector and this entire community in the next decade to come. That is, of course, only my opinion, and everything here is only speculation and opinion, and I'm, of course, not accusing anyone of anything. That is the way it is. All right. Remember to subscribe to this channel if you want to hear more about this. Not about Nikola, I'll not be making many videos about them. There will be some new oil sector videos in the upcoming days. There'll be more mining videos. There'll be some cannabis weed videos coming up, and there'll be some more EV videos soon. So I have a lot of new exciting products. Remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit the bell notification, all of that, and go into the website www.buildingfreedom.dk to sign up for our very exciting newsletter and investment course. That's about it for now. Take care of yourself and your money out there. I'll talk to you again shortly. Bye.